This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 183 of Horsemanship Radio, brought to you by Hands-On Gloves, the all-in-one shedding, bathing, grooming gloves. Horsemanship Radio is a part of the family of the Horse Radio Network, and today we have a little bit of chit-chat about transition horses, the adoption horses, and we also have a famous animal refuge in Florida. This is Debbie Laux, and you're listening to the Horsemanship Radio. Thanks for joining us. Horsemanship Radio airs on the 1st and the 15th of the month, and I have my producer, Jen, with me today. Hi, Jen.
Greetings. How's Debbie?
I'm good. We get to talk about Florida today a little bit.
Yes, we're going to stop by down here in Seminole Country with one of our guests. It's so cool that more and more often now, particularly now that the Right Horse Initiative is really making some progress into spreading the word about transition horses beyond people who would typically talk about that we get to talk more and more about success stories.
Yeah, I agree. You know, when we started Horsemanship Radio, you remember that it was about, alternative ways to train horses from the real traditional ways, right? We were going to have guests on that talked about training a lot and talk about the care and well-being of horses. And I can't think of a better subject than transitioning horses from one vocation to the other, or transitioning from on the track thoroughbred to a home, where somebody has them in the backyard, where they use them as a trail horse or an eventer, or, it's a logical next step to have an exit strategy for these horses that are in one industry over to another industry. And I think that's been fun to kind of do a lot of this. There's so many places out there now that have stories. So that's what's fun about Simon's talk today, that we did this interview with him talking about the variety of horses that we have in the Mustang and transition horse program, but also that there's cool people like Laurie Hood who found these animal refuge places, the no-kill shelters, but they're not your typical, they're not your grandmother's shelters, anymore.
Yes, the fun. Yes, the organizations are starting to morph and transition and create an atmosphere and, for lack of a better term, end product that gives that end product, the horse, a better ability to go out into the world and be a useful and productive citizen with so many different people. And that's really cool.
Yeah, it is. I think people will enjoy this time on episode 183.
183, and I do too. And we're going to get right to our first guest after we hear from another useful tool that is useful to lots and lots of modern horsemen, the hands-on gloves.
Well, I'm sitting here today with Jay Michelson of Hands-On Gloves. And we were talking today about the horse that has sensitive skin, or the animal that has sensitive skin, Jay. And I wanted you to help me address that a little bit. I know you've got some features to your products, but I know you know more about it than I do. So what do you do? What do you say to the owner that has somebody with sensitive skin?
Our gloves are made from surgical grade nitrile. So that makes them chemical resistant, mildew resistant, because you can bathe with them too. They're made to get wet. But across the board, there's no latex in them. So it's great for any animal, any people that have latex issues. There's no latex in it. They're just your hands. And if you have a thin-skinned horse or dog, they're cats, other animals. There are many animals that don't like to be touched in certain areas. But having the gloves on, it's just your hands. You get immediate feedback if you get to an area of that animal that is sensitive. And you can apply less pressure in those areas, and you can apply more pressure in the other areas. We have professional grooms that work from us. They groom for Olympians across the board, and these guys are phenomenal. And they did a study on mainly thoroughbreds, thin-skinned thoroughbreds, and they found out that most people are grooming too light.
Oh, interesting.
They're tickling the horses, and went in and applied just a little more pressure, and the horses loved it. And so that's kind of some of our experience with it. We have all kinds of animals and experience with that.
I think you can throw these in the wash machine. Am I right?
You can. Next time you bathe your animals with them, use the gloves. A little bit of soap suds up all the way. And what we do after we bathe our animals with them, we rinse them off, hang them out to dry, and they go back to new. You can throw them in the washing machine. Just don't put them in the dryer. And just throw them in the washing machine, hang them out to dry, and they go back to new.
Well, Jay, how do people find out about you?
handsongloves.com.
Today we have Monty Roberts' Mustang and Transition Horse program talked about utilizing Monty's world-renowned gentle and effective training techniques, including join up and his patented humane gentling facility. So his team at the Monty Roberts International Learning Center are now busily gentling and starting unbacked horses for our adoption partners. And we're working through some remedial issues with some of these horses. All of the horses are desensitized to a variety of objects and stimuli, and this makes them safe and willing partners for their future owners. So today we're going to have Simon Duinville on to the show to share the story of the founding of the program and some of the early successes that we've had. Well, welcome, Simon Duinville. Thank you for coming back to us. And from the MRLC, that's the Monty Roberts International Learning Center. What's going on today there at the school?
Well, at the school, not very much. We're very fortunate to have a short break before we get back into class. So we're busy doing some work with our Monty Roberts Mustang and Transition Horse program. So we've had a couple of new horses arrive in the program, and so we're busy working with those and doing some evaluations on them, and hopefully Monty's going to come and help us with the evaluation shortly. So, yes, that's the story for today.
Good. That's why I wanted to have you on the phone today. Seems a little bit exciting around there with a bunch of chestnut mares coming in the gate and really some cool stories these days. And we haven't done a catch up for a while. So before we get started, though, tell us what your position there is at the Mustang and Transition Horse program, and then tell us a little bit about the launch and how we got going.
Sure, no problem. So my position here is the head trainer, and what we do is we source horses from the Right Horse Initiative, and we get horses from the partners. So we do applications, and we assess horses that we are hoping to get into the program, and from there we send all that information through to Monty, and he double checks and gives us the okay on certain horses, bring them through and start the training. But I can give you a little bit of a story about what we're doing. So since 2016, the Right Horse Initiative has worked to increase the number of horses that are adopted in the U.S. So they have also worked to rename them horses in transition rather than rescues, as a rescue implies that the horse was taken from a neglectful situation. But many of the horses are perfectly sound and healthy and just in need of a new home or career. So the horses identified that a lack of high-quality training for remedial and feral horses is one of the most consistent ongoing needs for horses in transition.
Yeah.
With this in mind, we created the Monty Roberts Mustang and Transition Horse Program, where we retrain horses from the right horse adoption partners to make them safer and more adoptable. So a little bit about the program. All of our horses go through ground-based training work on remedial issues, desensitizing to a variety of objects and stimuli, and ground manners. We work to make sure all of our adoption horses can complete the right horse's basic behavior, which is a list of 14 common interactions between a horse and human, including
14. Okay, so this is a list from the Right Horse, eh? The Right Horse has created a list of 14. Okay, so you want to get some highlights for us on that one. What are the 14 elements they like?
Some of them are trailer loading, blanketing, taking oral medication, and standing for the farrier.
Okay.
So we also complete a ridden training program, which includes Monty's 6 ridden imperatives. So Monty's list, it's pretty basic, but they are imperatives, as he calls it, which are going forward, backing up, turning left and right, stopping and standing still. Additionally, we work on more advanced flat work and straightness training, and begin to work in the areas that we believe the horse is most suited, whether that's jumping, dressage, trail riding, polo, or something else.
Okay, sure. So are you telling me that some horses come in there and they don't back up?
They don't back up, they don't go forward, they don't turn left, they don't turn right, they don't want to take medicine.
Exactly. I mean, some people think, oh, well, of course, every horse backs up, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we find backing up is just as important as going forward. It's one of Monty's imperatives, and he believes that it's super crucial, and I must agree with him. Backing a horse up is just as important as going forward.
Right, but race horses, these thoroughbreds, sometimes are not thinking back up, right?
No, definitely not. They're thinking go forward and win.
And win, exactly. And that's what they're birthed thinking that way too. So it isn't as simple as it sounds to say we've got these 6 imperatives that must be reasonable within the horse to make it more adoptable and or to cause it to be more adoptable. We're very choice-based here, aren't we?
True. Yes, very right.
So what's the significance of the right horse? Did they, I know that they say they wanted to massively increase the adoptions in the U.S., but why the partnership with the right horse? Okay,
all right. So the right horses come together to try and help resolve issues within the adoption circle. So they've formed the Right Horse Initiative, in which they have sought out adoption centers with like-minded people and thoughts and organizations in order to put a bit of structure and to assist each other with barriers to entry, like transportation or training, or there's various other aspects of adoption that are not so easy for some but easier for others. And so it's basically just getting together and sharing the wealth of knowledge that they have, and essentially just putting people together to network and make things a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Good. So that gives people a framework here as to why we started the Mustang and Transition Horse program. And I wanted to get in with you a little bit now that we've been launched since October of 2020. And we've been working with some pretty special people, these adoption partners from, we've got one in Southern California, CJ and her team from Win Place Home. And then there's been several others that since launch that we've worked with. And so, of course, you're going to have some stories by now. You're going to have some cool stories to share with us. And I asked you to maybe pick one or two that give us a taste of what you're up against here when a horse comes off that trailer for the first time at Flag Is Up.
Yep. Okay. So let me start with the past horses. So since we started the program in October 2020, we've had 21 horses through our program, and so far 14 have been adopted. 2 were found unsound and needed further rehab before they could be adopted, and we have 5 currently in our program. So far, most of our horses are off-the-track thoroughbreds, not being too far from Santa Anita Racetrack and Monty's extensive history with training racehorses. They seem to be the horses we've been most successful retraining and rehoming in a short amount of time. But we do have plans to work with more Mustangs and other horses, especially when we have our advanced courses. Mm-hmm. So a little bit about the adoption stories. It's been great to have feedback from all of our adopters. I regularly hear from them about how our horses are coming along. 2 of my favorite adoption stories are Paprika and Lad. I didn't believe in the whole chestnut mare thing until I met Paprika from Win Place Home. She spent 5 months in our program as we didn't have any interest in her. I think because no one saw past her being a chestnut mare with a knee injury. Mm-hmm. She had been totally sound, so it wasn't an issue. But we've found a lot of people aren't willing to look past an old injury, even when a horse has been cleared by a vet. But in March, we had Eve, this feisty little 13-year-old who instantly fell in love with Paprika when she rode her. We shared Eve's adoption story on Monty's social media this week. It's great to see how the 2 have bonded, and it's a wonderful example of how we should look look past first impressions and give a horse a second chance.
Ah, nice. Right. So, okay, yes, I love Mars too. Yeah, go ahead.
Another very good one is Lad. So the story that I love about Lad is that he retired from racing as he had respiratory bleeding, which is quite common in racehorses. They treated it with Lasix, but Lad was losing too much weight on the treatment, so they made a decision to retire him. His race name was Lord Admiral, and he's ended up being adopted by a lovely lady who works in the military, in the legal division. It seems fitting that Lord Admiral would end up living on a military base. They have a wonderful equestrian facility there, and he's being pampered and fattened up as a pleasure trail horse. So that's a really good story.
Yeah. Landlocked Lord Admiral. That's great. He's now in Arizona. But he's beautiful too. So, I mean, what makes what a horse is a horse, right? We all believe that. And what makes your choices what you make when you and Monty put your heads together and you start watching video? What are your main needs? What are your criticisms? What do you want in your training program that makes it unique?
Well, we like to take horses in between, say, 3 and 9 to 10 years old. Okay. We don't want them too young, a lot of trouble, and we don't want them too old because it's a little bit of a barrier, I would say. The clientele that we have at the moment they're mainly hunter jumpers and 3-day eventing. So we're looking for nice, big, strong horses that are sound, that we're able to put through our rigorous training program. And of course, we need to ride them at the same time. So anything that's got a nice big motor on it and is looking really good and healthy and it's got a good shine to it, we'll jump for.
Good. That makes good sense because we are not an adoption partner per se. We're actually an industry partner. And that puts us in a different and more unique position in that we're setting an example where we've got a program set up to, if you will, create a training program that is as massive as we can make it to match Right Horse's mission statement to massively increase the adoptions across the United States. So we've become a bit of a prototype for the training of horses to go back out to either the industry partners have people that want to adopt these horses, but they're not finished enough for them. Or tell us a little bit about the intern program too, because to me, this is what's really going to give, the old saying of don't give a man a fish, give him the ability to fish, teach him how to fish, and he can eat for life. So tell us a little bit about the internship program and how that might apply.
Okay, so initially when we first started with the Right Horse, we started drawing horses from the various Right Horse partners around California, and we always had this in the back of our mind that we would really like to work with not only their horses but with their staff too. As you said, give a man a fish and he'll eat tonight, or teach a man to fish and he'll be able to eat forever.
That's it. Yeah.
We had to start by working with the horses and showing them what we're capable of doing. But over and above that, we are Monty Roberts International Learning Center, and that's what we do best is we teach. We have this International Learning Center where we've had students from all around the world that have now become instructors that are able to go out there and teach. So once we started getting horses and we said, why are we only doing the horses? Why don't we try and get some of their key personnel and bring them here, let them have an internship so we can train them on our methods so that they could go back and in fact work with all those horses there. So instead of them sending us 1 or 2 horses to try and fix, which we would have to send back to them, well, now we're just training their staff and sending their staff back. They can fix all of the horses. So the Right Horse Initiative has been really good with us in that they are accepting of what we're asking, and they are most certainly helping us move forward with this. And so we have started taking in some of the key personnel, letting them intern here and take that knowledge back to the partners, and apply our methods to the horses that they have there in training or that they're battling with, which has proved to be super successful. We only started the internship program a couple of months ago, but we've had nothing but good feedback since.
Mm-hmm. And some good people too, some really good hands. I love the talent and abilities that they've brought here. And I love their expressions when they first start learning some of the things that, we've got our certified instructor, Jamie Jennings, who's been a great example out there, became the Right Horse Trainer of the Year. And you can see on social media, on her Facebook page, what she's been doing. You can see our social medias too. But I think what's really exciting is when people say things like, where's this been all my life? How come nobody taught me this stuff? And how come loading on the trailer is so much easier now? And so I love that they've got their minds open to learning, and it's been fun. So maybe people are thinking, well, how do I get in on that program? So tell us a bit about the restrictions, or what qualifies for an intern.
Okay, so at the moment it's currently open to Right Horse Initiative partners only. So you would need to either volunteer or assist at a Right Horse partner, and there's Right Horse partners around across the nation. You just have to go onto their website and be able to find where your closest adoption partner is, and sign up and become a volunteer and put a little bit of time in there. And once you've done a little bit of time with them, and you are welcome to apply to the internship program, of which we will take applications, do the vetting, and it's pretty simple to get in here. That's the only thing is, at the moment, you need to be volunteering or work for a Right Horse partner. But who knows, that could change. This is just the start. And
that's right.
Incredibly well so far.
Yeah, that's right. We've been really fortunate. And I hope there are people listening out there who think, dang, I want to go volunteer at a Right Horse Adoption Center, because they are wonderful. It's a nice qualified adoption center too. I like that we were able to work with just not all backyard sanctuaries, but that we really have a mission statement. And interestingly enough, we've said so on other shows, but it should go into this episode too, that the Right Horse did so well in their 5-year plan that they squeezed it into about 3 and became a program of the ASPCA. So they're well funded as well too. And I like that sustainability in a nonprofit like that too. So great. So, and you adopted one as well. Tell me about Marshmallow.
Giving all my secrets away.
Yeah.
Well, I'd wanted a nice big grey since I arrived here, and well, I had my eyes set on one of the first horses that we took in. His name was Salty, a beautiful grey thoroughbred, and I kind of lost him because a kid fell in love with him, and I couldn't break the kid's heart to say that I wanted him. So I ended up letting him go to this kid, and then I spoke to CJ and said, oh, this just happened, and it's such a pity, but please keep your eyes open for a nice big grey for me. And she said, well, you know what, I've actually got one. So I said, please tell me more. And she did, and I said, okay, well, I've booked him, and he's a bit of a crazy guy, and he licks poles, and he does funny things, but he's only a 3-year-old and having fun. So, yes, his name is Marshmallow. His racing name was My Fave, and I managed to not put him on the website, but as he came in, I signed the adoption papers. So nobody could take him from under me again. But, so he's here, and he's happy, and we started doing a bit of work with him last month, and all is going well so far. And I'm happy about it. I'm
glad. And I'm glad you're a part of the program too. And I should tell people too that they are even OTTBs, and we've had mutts too, right? We've had some mixed breeds and everything, and they all go out in the pasture. Nobody's stalled. I mean, unless there's an abscess in the hoof or something, nobody is brought up. They live like horses out in a green pasture in California. And yes, thoroughbreds can be turned out. I'll let everybody know that. It's new news to a lot of people. They can. Nobody's bubble wrapped here. So if somebody is interested, how do they contact you, Simon?
Okay, if you'd like to learn more about our program and the horses in it, you can visit montyroberts.com/adopt. You can also follow Monty Roberts on Facebook or Instagram to see our regular updates.
Great. Thank you so much, Simon. And thank you for your dedication to these horses, seeing them through all the way through their transition to their new career, a new life. I appreciate you.
Listen up, horse owners. If your horses can't get out on green grass for their daily dose of omegas, Purina's got you covered. The Purina team of PhD equine nutritionists have 2 new products that are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and they taste better than many sources. Looking at you, fish oil. Try the new Purina Omega Match Timothy-based Ration Balancer or ahi flower oil supplement, and see for yourself why these are among some of the best omegas that nature offers. It can take science and love together, each pulling their weight to help your horses live their best lives. Put our research to the test at purinamills.com/omega match.
Coming up, we have 2 guests. Matt Cohn will be doing a series called Animal Passion. That's with Laurie Hood, who runs the Alaqua Animal Refuge in Florida. This series includes a segment on soaring and horse racing with Monty Roberts. Now, Laurie Hood is the founder and president of Alaqua Animal Refuge, a no-kill animal shelter and a sanctuary located in the panhandle of Florida. And they believe that every abused, neglected, and homeless animal deserves a second chance. In Animal Passion, this series, Laurie engages with animal lovers around the world. She has celebrities, scientists, artists, trainers, and animal advocates, too. Laurie shares how a single person's passion, often ignited by a chance encounter, can change the lives of countless animals and the people who love them and care for them, while creating lasting change in the animals, too. Matt Cohn is a seasoned television development director and producer with over 22 years of experience. He's developed broadcast shows for networks such as Netflix, Discovery Channel, Bravo, A&E, TLC, and ABC News. Well, welcome. I am pleased to have both Matt Cohn and Laurie Hood on Horsemanship Radio. Laurie is the founder and president of Alaqua Animal Refuge. And I want to ask you the first question. I love the byline, Laurie. Shelter, safety, and second chances, or just shelter, period, safety, period, second chances. Why is adoption work your passion?
Thank you so much. Well, it came about because of just a need in our area. There was absolutely nothing for dogs and cats originally. 7 counties around us had 100% euthanasia rates, and this was just 13 years ago. So it was unimaginable to me that this was happening around me. And it quickly became that within just a couple of months of starting my organization to address these changes, that we learned that there was completely nothing available for equine that were in need. And so all of a sudden we came into this incredible opportunity to totally transform an area and its way of thinking and to save a lot of lives on the way. So it's just been a magical journey.
That's great. So you really are rescuing the unrescuable in your area. That's pretty incredible that there's not another no-kill in your area. Is there a story behind that? Is it a law thing, or what do you think was going on there?
It's not a law thing. It was just actually more just of a mindset. We are in Florida. We're in Northwest Florida, which is basically lower Alabama. And, it's kind of still the good old boy system. And, animal welfare was not a top priority for our counties and a lot of the community. And so when we started this, everyone that was waiting for something like this to happen came on board, and it's just been an amazing experience.
That's great. Now, I know you're a horse girl, so I always ask, what's your horsey background? Were you born into this with the horse gene, or how'd you get into horses?
I actually lived in a subdivision growing up, but my mother would let me have any kind of animal that I wanted. And that was a lot. And so as most little girls growing up, my dream, I had I drew horses. I dreamed of horses. I, had every little horse statue that there was. And from about 6 years old, I decided that that was something that I wanted to pursue. And so she let me. And so we got our first horse. I would go every day after school. I was a rodeo barrel racer, and, my passion has never stopped. And so from early on, I've been a horsewoman.
Fantastic. Good. I raised 2 boys, and I told them all you have to do is wear the T-shirt with a horse on it, and you'll get all the dates that you. There's very few men in the horse industry, and I can't figure that quite out. Except I think there's something empathetic or compassionate about women that have drawn women to the industry. What do you think?
I agree. It's funny that you say that. I have 2 boys, and they're 15 and 16. Mm-hmm. And my oldest boy, his name is Colton Crockett Hood. His middle name's Crockett. But that's I always great. Had the dream of him becoming a horseman and his nickname being Colt Hood.
That is great. Yeah, Hood, you can play with that quite a bit. That's a lot to do there. But, we're glad you got into horses, because I even read a recent article that you are doing some good work to help some race horses coming off the tracks in Louisiana. And we'll get to Matt's part of this interview too, but I want to hear about that first.
Well, we run into so many different opportunities to not only save some of these horses in need, but to tell their story, and to tell their story in the big picture, what's going on in the world related to them. So yes, recently we saved a racehorse off the track that ended up at a kill lot, which was, it's 2 stories, the story of the racehorse and its winnings, and that, it was sold after it could no longer race. And then the story of these kill lots that, the horses end up at, and then they're shipped to slaughter. And so it's really amazing, the different types of horses and the different stories that we're able to tell. We rescue wild Mustangs over here in Florida. And, the thought of a wild Mustang being captured, over in the West and then ended up in auctions or in sales in Florida is also a story in itself, right? So
right.
It's been interesting to let these horses come in and let our community and our staff and our volunteers get to meet them up close and hear their story, and then understand how to advocate for these animals, and to advocate for change for them.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, Matt Cohn, thank you for being on the interview with us. I watched a segment about some wildlife photographers that Laurie was interviewing, and it was fascinating. And I don't know what date that might come out. Maybe you don't have a date yet, but I can't wait to have people share their insight to working with wild animals. We're talking wolves and bears and crazy environments. So what was your part in that?
Yes, that was with Buck Wild. And he was a talent that we had actually worked with in producing a show for Nat Geo. But I think, that's going to be pretty amazing. And I think we even have plans to have Laurie go up and go out with Buck. I mean, she's really great at when I first met Laurie, it's funny, when I first met her, I'm like, all right, here's this attractive blonde lady who's sitting here, and then she kept telling me about all these things she's doing. Mm-hmm. And then once you actually see her working, I mean, she can go to DC and talk to a lobbyist, but when she's really comfortable is she's out there, like, in the grunt of it, rescuing not only horses, but these animals, dogs, cats, whatever, that have been abused. And I mean, she's working. She's out there working and doing it. And they're very charismatic when it comes to telling these stories. I mean, Laurie is a natural born storyteller. She is, and whether she believes it or not, but
you are a discoverer of talent too. So we don't take that lightly when you say something like that. And Laurie, you are beautiful. I saw you are such a brave girl because a lot of us podcasters, we're off in a corner or in a closet or something. We certainly don't do our hair for the show. And you look gorgeous sitting there. We saw a video podcast, which maybe that's the future. I'm frightened by the thought, but that is the future of podcasting. But I saw some great themes in that. Both Matt and Laurie, jump in here. But the familiar themes that I felt so comfortable with were with these wild animals, Buck talking about free choice and body language. Tell us a little bit about what you learned just listening to that interview and watching some of that video of Buck.
When I was interviewing Buck Wild and I was listening to his story about his specialty was body language, it really resonated with me, and it will too with you, Debbie, with the horse, and how we can interact in a natural way and natural horsemanship and all those beliefs that we believe about horses, because he put what we've learned with horses and utilized it coming literally face to face with, a wild bear. And I'm talking a really large wild bear. Yeah. And he says that, he's studying them and he gets in front of over 1,000 bears a summer within 3 meters of him. Yeah. So if you can only imagine, he's able to read them and he's never been attacked, and, he's able to interact with them safely. And I think that says so much for, all of what we do in the animal world. And I can relate to that on almost every species that we work with. So I was just fascinated by it. And Matt's correct. He did invite us out. And so next summer, I'll be there in Alaska with him looking for these bears. And I'm so excited about that. I can't even stand it.
That is just amazing. Yeah, Matt, you're right. She doesn't have adrenaline in her body, because watching some of those scenes, I'm thinking the breathing must have been incredible, because they literally were a stone's throw from a big brown bear that was all eyes on eyes. And I know with a horse, eyes on eyes, I'm in control. That means the horse is going to go away. But eyes on eyes to a bear can be, according to Buck, confrontational, which we all sort of know that. But when he's standing next to a camera, looking at the bear, looking in his eyes, it's hard to believe that you can't get a little nervous.
It's true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Buck is definitely, he was somebody that was in the CIA and, kind of left his cushy job there to go out and to really become more than an expert, on bears and the behavior, along with Esther, who knows quite a bit about wolves and what they're into. And I think that was another great bridge in that interview with Laurie and Esther, when, Laurie was also able to talk about wolves and her interest in that.
Yeah, Esther was amazing too. And I was going to ask you about that too, because Esther talked about being behind the camera helped her relax. So she focused on taking the photographs and not the fact with this wolf with 2-inch teeth was dancing around her. And it looked sort of playful, but then on the other hand, it could look like you're playing with a piece of prey too. I don't know. She could be either.
I thought the same thing.
Didn't you, Laurie? Yeah, because I thought, what flinch would cause a flip in the brain of that animal to think it's prey or it's play. And it's just such a difference between carnivore and flight animal. And we get to work with flight animals all the time. And people do come here who have never worked with horses before and say, wow, it's such a big animal. It's 1,000 pounds. Isn't there anything that you fear? And I think it's a strange concept to fear a horse who is a flight animal, and we're the carnivores. We eat
Right.
meat, and they know it, unless we're vegetarians. And there is nothing about them that wants to be with us if we're untrustworthy. So, Laurie, I know you've been around horses your whole life. So, what do you think about the language of the horse? Does that term mean anything to you?
It does, and I had the honor of first learning about the type of work that your father is such an advocate for back when I had a personal little tragedy, and I thought to myself, it's the perfect time to try to get back into horses. And this was about 20 years ago, and I was able to work with another natural horsemanship trainer out in Montana, and I ended up taking home a horse from Montana and bringing it back to Florida with me. And this horse had been, it had been abused in the traditional cowboy way. It was trained in the aggressive methods, and it was very skittish, and you could see that it needed to learn to trust again. And I have to say that my experience with that horse, I think we both healed, through the process of me understanding the language that he was trying to tell me and vice versa. And, I just can't say enough about that, because we also have a PTSD and a equine therapy program here. I know you're very familiar with that as well.
Yeah.
But we watch it every day. We watch these people come in with these severe tragedies and severe trauma in some way to their lives, and what the horse language does for them. And it's just a miraculous thing to watch.
It really is amazing. But I did have one personal story I wanted to share that I thought about as when Laurie was talking about that. But I think it was when we were filming the Nat Geo. Maybe it was one of the first initial episodes, or maybe even the sizzle reel. But we were called out. We had our cameras and our crew with us, and we were called out and to see it was a group of horses that were mistreated. And there was one horse. I mean, these horses were in horrific shape. And there was one horse that was laying down in the field, and literally there was an old woman. I don't know if you remember this, this older woman who had them. She couldn't take care of them. And it was, but it was awful. I mean, their hooves and everything were all grown together. It was pretty terrible. And she said, don't go and don't bother that horse. It's aggressive. It will be a problem. And Laurie got out of the car, and she heard us. And I mean, I looked over at her, and she started walking over to that horse. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, let's see what happens. But I knew she would be able to take care of herself. And that horse, she just went over and laid her hand on the back of that horse. And that horse just kind of got up and looked over at her with the most loving eyes. And it was almost heartbreaking and just energetic. I was like, This is amazing. Like, this is something that people have to see.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Do you remember that, Laurie?
I do. I do. And, it's, how we do about having everything be the horse's idea, and I just, I think that's what happened in that moment, that, it was his idea to come with me, not me forcing him to come with me, and I do remember that.
So another thing I wanted to bring up was watching Esther in this series, this one segment of Animal Passion, the program, was her belief in her camera so much that she thought, we don't have to follow the animals, that if there is a choice for them to come to us, they'll come to us. And if there is a curiosity or whatever, she used some different words, but I like that so many, probably crews too, Matt, you would know, do follow the Mustangs, and they do track animals. And that does create a different environment for the animal, probably puts a little stress on them. It probably puts some fear in them. And I like their approach to just being in the environment and allowing the horses to come to them. Do you remember that in the series, the one that I watched?
Yeah. I think that's the same way we approach horses, is that, we give them the time to come to us and to accept us. And I was very taken back when she said that, because I could relate to it in so many different ways.
I don't know if you two were privileged enough to watch My Octopus Teacher. It was a kind of a different little documentary that was filmed in South Africa, off the coast there. Did you ever get a chance to see that?
It's
Doesn't
one of
matter
my
if you
favorite
do.
things I've ever seen.
Oh, there you
Yes,
are. Okay.
I love it so much. Yes.
I love that about him saying that it took several sessions. It took so many different times him going down there before they actually believed he was a part of the environment. And I can't remember exactly how he said it, but I thought it was a good lesson for us to learn that sometimes we walk into the animal world and expect them to be on, I don't know, demonstration for us or entertaining us or whatever. And then we leave as if we're really getting a true picture of the way they are. But once we are a part of their environment, it's a completely different relationship.
Yeah, he's actually on our list for one of the podcasts. So we're hoping that works out for us.
And was that your choice, Matt?
He's a great example of the guest we're looking for.
I agree.
We really want to tell that kind of story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Laurie, I bet you look forward to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's interesting now, too, because we are going into, our organization has done so much for domesticated animals, and we take just about every domestic animal that there is, we've either have or have had at some point. But we've discovered that there's such a need for wild animal rehabilitation in our area. There's nothing for, if a bald eagle or something gets hit by a car, there's no place to take it. So we've addressed those issues. We're about to start a wild animal rehabilitation center here. I think June 1st is our target date. But in a bigger picture, we're also trying to bring awareness to all sorts of endangered species. And that's why the wolf and Esther and buck were important to us, because not only are we going to have a black bear rehabilitation center for the Florida black bear, which will be the first in our state, but we're also going to be a part of the red wolf recovery program, and they're one of the most endangered species in the country right now. And so we're going to have the privilege to work with those two species, and I just am looking so forward to the experience of, not directly interacting with those animals, because you want to give them respect to stay wild, which is the ultimate goal. But that experience, I'm so much looking forward to that, and the result that's going to bring to hopefully their species.
Yes, of course. That's wonderful. So how would people find out more about you? This is where we want you to share as much as you possibly can so that people can learn a little bit more about what you're doing and how they can watch you and how they can see you. So who wants to take that question?
Matt, you go ahead and take that for Animal Passion.
Yeah, I think for Animal Passion, we will be definitely, highlighting all of these programs, and especially the ones about, the equine assisted therapy programs that Laurie's doing, and that, we plan on definitely highlighting in the podcast. We're going to, create small, it's kind of a TV technical word. I'm using sizzle, but it's going to be more than a sizzle. We're really going to try to promote these different programs and give them a story behind it. And if anybody wants to see more of the great things that Laurie's doing with Alaqua, they can go to alaqua.org, and it'll all be right there on the website. We're also going to be updating it. It is actually updated, if not daily, bi-daily, on little stories, etc.
Oh, good. Good. And Laurie, do you have social media contact? I mean, do you have a Facebook page and a pretty Instagram or anything like that we can go look at?
We have all of those things. We're on all the social media platforms. We're on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook, and we upload daily stories there. And we have amazing photography that's uploaded also on a daily basis on our Instagram page. And there's never a day that goes by on this property that there's not something that happens that, changes not only the animals' lives here, but the people's lives as well. We have over 400 active volunteers, and yes. And, the amazing thing about it, Debbie, is that, I went to these volunteers, and of course I asked them, what brings you here? And they all love animals. That's the first answer. But then when you dive a little deeper, you find out that, their son's committed suicide, or their husband's passed away of cancer, or there's something that has happened to them that displaces their healing place. And I find that very amazing. And I find that amazing that animals that have come from the worst places that you could ever imagine, are able to heal. And they're able to heal with these people who are also trying to heal. And it's just such the power of unconditional love, and it gives them hope, and it gives them sometimes the ability to go on, when they didn't have anything to go on for, prior to this. And so we are about to move to our new facility, which is 100 acres, and we're actually capitalizing on that ability to heal both the human and the animal soul. And we're going to have different programs for that. We have already programs established that do that. The Equine Interactions program, of course, we've already spoken about. We have a program in prison that we utilize dogs in prison. The prisoners train them to be either better adopted, easily adopted, or service dogs for people who can't afford them. But we have all of that expanding on our new property. And I'm so excited to be able to offer this to, not only the animal soul, but the human soul as well.
That's wonderful. That's super ambitious. And what a lovely mission statement that is. But with 400 volunteers and your passion, I have no question that you will get it done. And I can't wait to see all the things that you're going to do to strategically take all these animals into our lives. Flip it around. People always think we're doing so much for the animals, and aren't we good stewards of the animals? And I think the animals are saving us. So we better look to see how valuable they are and start treating them a little bit better so they can help us.
We were talking about our vision statement. Every good organization has a great mission statement and vision statement. And, ours has evolved a little bit from the first day I started. And, they're like, in our exercise, they're like, well, what is your ultimate goal? What would you like to see all your work accomplished? And I just, I kind of giggled, and I said, well, really, I think it can change the world. If you teach empathy and you teach children to love all living things, you can literally change the world. And
absolutely.
So I think that's a big vision mission, but it's true.
Whisper the language of the herd. Listen, you don't have to say a word.
It's time for Jamie Jennings to fetch an email from Monty Roberts' inbox and share a morsel of Monty's wisdom in a little segment we like to call Ask Monty.
Leave this world a better place than mine. The magic in the language of the herd.
Dear Monty, my horse has difficulty taking the bit. It was recommended by someone that I use a bitless bridle for her, but I don't know how to use one and no one will help me. They will only help with a bit. My horse has never bitten, reared, bucked, or been difficult in any way. She just gets very scared of the bit. Monty's answer. I sympathize with the problem you are having. Horses often come to me in the same condition you've outlined in your question. I will never understand how professional horsemen can feel that violence and brutality can solve the condition you've described. This behavior is one of the few where I recommend a food substance. I place first honey on a stick and ask the horse to take the stick in the mouth, licking the honey off. I then put honey on a bit with no bridle and repeat the process. Before long, the horse will follow me around and attempt to put the bit on himself. I've had good outcomes from this process. Often horses become fearful when they hear the sound of metallic bits. In such cases, Mylar or Happy Mouth bits are quite effective. These are made from a plastic-type substance that will take the honey quite well. The honey taste will remain on the soft mouthpiece, and you can put it on and off as many times as your horse wants and still experiencing the taste of honey. Note that it is quite possible to work without a bridle on the bit. It's easier to work with the bit as a solo object without reins either. Get in the mood to have fun with this. I recommend that you work your horse in a box stall, loose box. If you put the horse's tail in a safe corner, then it's easier to approach the muzzle area. Don't be forceful with the honey-coated stick. Just start by putting it in the corner of the mouth onto the tongue. Continue this work until you can pass it through the front teeth and onto the tongue so that the horse tastes the honey. Experience is always valuable in these areas. I would like you to realize that with my decades of work with horses, I can take the most difficult sort and cause them to reach out consciously to take the bit in 2 or 3 sessions of 45 minutes to an hour. When you can achieve this level of acceptance from your horse, it is fun. When it's fun, it happens faster and more effectively. Wherever a bitless bridle can be advantageous to the horse owner, I recommend using the dually halter. It can serve as a normal halter and is invaluable for educating the horse, and it also comes complete with its own DVD to help you in learning to use it. Monty.
For more of these insights into good horsemanship, go to MontyRoberts.com and click on the words Ask Monty at the bottom of the page.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Where in the world is Monty Roberts?
Monty is looking forward to meeting some new friends, two-legged and four-legged. May 28 through 30, we have our Horse Sense and Healing program for first responders and veterans. Then into June, we have the 4th through the 6th. We have an introductory course, Module 4, which is prepping for the intro exams. Good luck, everybody there. And then for June of 7 through 11, we'll be doing the Gentling Wild Horses course. We've got interns coming back for that and students coming back for that. That's really fun. That was the first one that Jamie Jennings did. That's the host of Horses in the Morning. And then June 11 through 13, we have our Western States Horse Expo. So Monty will be up in Sacramento, California on the 12th doing some loading demonstrations and teaching his join up. And then on the 18th through the 20th this month, this has been my favorite weekend all year now. The 18th through the 20th, we will have the Movement 2021. Go to themovement2021.com. And then 21 through 25 of June, we'll have a Monty special training. And we're focusing on some pretty feral horses for that one. So coming out of the Gentling Wild Horse course, they'll just continue on through the Monty special training. So if you're considering a back-to-back, that would be the great one. In July 2nd through 4th, we have another Horse Sense and Healing. And then we have July 12th through 23, an introductory course of horsemanship. That's the first leg, 2 weeks long of the certification process. Then long-term planners, we have August 2 through 13, a Gentling Wild Horse course, completely new set of horses for that one. And then 16 through 20 will be Monty's special training, which again will continue with those horses for a back-to-back.
And if you could not commit all of that to memory, because there's a lot, you can find all of that and more at MontyRoberts.com, or you can call the fine folks at Flag Is Up Farms in Solvang, California at 805-688-6288.
Have you ever wondered how to keep your horse sound and how to prevent future lameness issues? Have you had to deal with abscesses, stone bruises, laminitis, navicular, or soft tissue damage in the hoof capsule? Or maybe you're a farrier and you want to learn how top vets around the world diagnose and treat various hoof care issues. The Humble Hoof is a podcast for both owners and professionals discussing the health of the hoof and soundness of your horse. Check us out, published twice a month on Horse Radio Network.
And that's the wrap up for another great Horsemanship Radio podcast. And for details about today's show, episode 183, you can go to horsemanshipradio.com, where you're going to find photos and links to today's guests and topics. Don't forget, you need to follow Flag Is Up Farms and Monty Roberts on social. He's on Facebook, Monty Roberts, the one with the little blue check mark. And he is also on Twitter and Instagram. His handle in both places is Monty_Roberts. If you have not done so already, please do download the free Horse Radio Network app for your iPhone or your Android. It's the easiest way to listen to Horsemanship Radio and all the other podcasts on Horse Radio Network. Just hop into your app store and download it today. And download it for your friends who are a little bit less tech savvy. They will thank you later.
They will. Of course they will. In fact, they'll start telling you what was on the shows after a while, which is great. I do love the app. Many thanks to our sponsors, too. Our title sponsor, Hands On Gloves, and for all those hands-on gloves that are giving out to the interns these days, too. They're loving them and taking back to all their adoption partners. So thanks for all of that, Jay, at Hands On Gloves. And then also we have specials. We have Purina on this. And, of course, watch those other great shows on the Horse Radio Network at www.horseradionetwork.com. But most importantly, until next time, have many happy horse hours.